Grüezi miteinander. Yes, it is true, I do speak German, but for the sake of your ears, I would probably decide to do this in English. So, as I said, Andrew White, FundApps, thank you very much for the kind introduction. FinTech 50, FinTech 100. Yes, we are one of these new wave of companies that's transforming, disrupting. I hear people don't like the word disrupting, but it is true, the industry. And what FundApps provides is what's called RegTech. Has anybody heard the word RegTech before? Wow, excellent. Very simple. RegTech is regulation technology. Just like FinTech is financial technology, RegTech is regulation technology. And quite simply, as every other industry has been pointed out earlier, has been disrupted, whether it's your Netflix, your Blockbusters, your YouTubes, has been disrupted by technology, and finance was too. It was quite late in the game that regulation was actually disrupted or is being disrupted by technology. And it seems an obvious candidate to be disrupted because, as I heard Sniggers here, regulation is pretty much everybody's least favorite thing. Everybody hates regulation, unless anybody, hands up, loves regulation. I do. So regulation is honestly the #1 problem for financial institutions. So it seemed pretty logical that a solution for using technology in solving regulatory problems was a natural thing to do. You need some statistics to start off a slide to set the scene. This is from the Thomson Reuters Cost of Compliance survey last year. I'm not going to surprise anybody here in the audience by saying regulation is the #1 issue, whether it's asset managers, hedge funds, investment banks, fund administrators. Every survey will tell you pretty much that compliance or regulation or some form of that is the #1 worry or issue they face. Some key statistics, for example, 70% of people surveyed said they feared more regulation was on the way this year. Probably a lot of you here have sleepless nights about MiFID II, you've got UCITS 5, you've got all these new regulations coming down the pipe, and they're obviously going to cost you money and cost you time and effort. 33% of companies spending 1 day a week tracking regulatory change. That is an awful lot of time if you think man hours and woman hours of what you're actually doing as a company for something that brings zero added value to your company. You're just analyzing regulation, you're not making money, you're not generating alpha, you're just staying up to date with regulation. 3/4 of people surveyed said they expected the focus to get even more on regulation this year. As you've all seen from the regulations mentioned, the focus is rising day by day. And then finally, it's all about the money. 66% of people saying they expected to spend more money on compliance staff this year. So in a nutshell, you have increasing complexity, increasing speed of change, velocity of change. So the regulations are getting more complex. MiFID II is a lot more complex than MiFID I. Basel III is more complicated than Basel II, and so on and so forth. It's getting faster. You know, the different UCITS 1 came out in the 80s, UCITS 3 came out in 2000, UCITS 4 came out a couple of years later. So this period of change is getting shorter, and that isn't going to change. The regulators aren't going to go back and say, hey, everything's cool now, we're going to stop for a while. It is going to get quicker and quicker because they know that it is possible through technology to stay up to date with the regulation, but only if you use technology. So as I said, regulation's getting more complex, it's being pushed down the pipes more quickly, and you know what? It's costing more and more money every year. Through IT, through people, through expertise, it's getting more and more costly. As I said, all in all, for a service or for a function in your organization that is zero added value, it brings you nothing. All it does is tick a box. And that seems like a fairly crazy thing to do, is spend all this time and money and effort and stress and getting fines and penalties for something, as I said, which is no value to you. And even worse is that the current solution, as practiced by most institutions except for our customers, is absolutely broken. And I'll tell you why it's broken. There was an icon there which was broken, but it's obviously gone. So every single financial institution around the world is duplicating effort. Whether you're a hedge fund in Manhattan, whether you're an asset manager in London or a private bank in Zurich, every one of those organizations is interpreting MiFID II right now, working out what to do. They're hiring lawyers, they're getting external counsel, they're paying 1,000 francs an hour or 1,000 pounds an hour to get some lawyer to analyze the same document again and say, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that. You know, duplicating effort. And getting internal teams together, whether they're agile, crack teams, you're the regulation team, putting them together, kind of going, what do we do about MiFID II? Okay, we better get some business analyst, a project manager, 5 compliance people, put them together, and basically after a year they come out with a series of things that you need to do. Every single financial institution around the world is doing the same thing. If that isn't the definition of madness, I don't know what is. And by definition, regulation should be a level playing field. ESMA talks about a level playing field. Everybody should be doing the same thing, yet they're not. Because as humans, we do analysis, we make assumptions, we make judgment calls, and we make mistakes. We interpret one line with a comma as meaning this or that. So around the world, X% of people are making mistakes. And that means that people are getting fined, there's wasted effort. When certainly if you're to think of it from a kind of logical point of view, you'd say, hey, why doesn't everybody get together and decide how to do this as a community? And of course, along the same time, spending lots and lots of money on hardware, software, databases, servers, all that stupid stuff that actually, as I said, I'm going to keep on saying, brings you no value. You're paying for all this servers and complicated IT just for something that you need to do as a business. Kind of put that in a schematic. I had to bring in a cloud or two. My speech is on clouds, so here we have some clouds. You have the financial institutions. So we have them there all along. You see 1 or 2 financial institutions with some cobwebs. They might be a little bit old-fashioned. But each of these institutions has made a decision to buy on-premise software. So they've bought from a vendor, install the software. Or, God forbid, they've actually built a system themselves in 2016, please. But they've made a decision to solve this problem with software. And as you can see here, every single institution has a System A or System B, which could be replaced with the name of a fighter jet or the name of a river in Boston. But each of these has a system on a different version number, doing something or other. You've got people coding rules and maintaining regulation. But as I mentioned, each of these institutions is doing exactly the same thing. They're analyzing UCITS. I call this the soccer scores, the football scores. UCITS 4, Basel 3, CRD 2, TD 2. It is literally like a Star Wars movie or a Superman movie that the regulation just adds a number to the end of the regulation. Soon we'll have UCITS 6. So this is just proof that regulation is going to keep on churning and getting more complicated. So on the left-hand side, you have your regulatory updates, as I said, the various ones that are known to you all and feared probably by you all as well, which the organizations are all trying to stay up to date with. They're all trying to work out what does the transparency directive mean to me? What do I have to do? They're, as I said, spending money on analysts and on computers to solve this problem. Excuse me. And then on the right-hand side, just to do this regulatory job, they have this technical footprint, this technical infrastructure that they need. So you'll have a vendor saying, hey, you need to upgrade to version 8.0 to do TD2, or you need to upgrade to version 7.1 to do interest rate swaps. And the customer's going to go, I don't want to update my software, I'm happy, thank you. But the vendor's like, no, you have to update your software, we're not going to support you anymore. So you roll out the IT team gets a project team together to upgrade the software. All madness, the fact that just to do a regulatory job, you need this whole rake of software people, or these hardware people keeping your machines up to date. Likewise, operating systems, I still see an occasional Windows 2000 in some banks. This is also a bit weird that you have to update your operating systems to use the newest software. And of course, database, middleware, hardware. All that expense that every single institution is spending just to be compliant, just to do a regulatory job. They don't really need it. If they didn't have to, they wouldn't have it. But yet they're spending this money on the hardware. They're spending money on, as I said, lawyers, in-house counsel, external counsel, to keep up to date with the regulations. As I said, that for me is the definition of madness, when you repeat the same thing over and over again and don't think that there's a better way of doing things. Oh, this is old slides. Well, they're not the new slides. Oh, okay, I'll try and wing this one. I sent some new slides on Monday. Out of my comfort zone there. So the principle for me was, so there's a second, and I'll wing my slides that I've sent but aren't here. The first step was to what's called ASP or hosting, to get rid of the servers. I'll go back to this slide. to get rid of the servers and move them somewhere else. So you gave them to the vendor, or you gave them to a consultant, or you gave them to some third party to look after. You know, that solved some problems. You reduced your IT spend. You got rid of some maybe technical people maintaining your software. But at the end of the day, it didn't bring you any closer to solving the issue at hand, was that every single institution was doing the same work and interpreting the same regs. So about 6 or 5 years ago, as you mentioned, I took the leap of faith and said, okay, I truly believe that web technology and the cloud is the way to do things. Why have every single bank do this themselves when you can put it in the cloud? And that's what we've done. So basically, in a nutshell, you have 2 core principles. One is obviously that the software and the hosting is done by us or by the vendor, which means, and I have a very a saying that I like to use is banks should do banking, software companies should build software, and hosting companies should host. I'm always suspicious of software companies that say they can do hosting very well. So choosing a hoster like Amazon, who is the non plus ultra in hosting, is a great start to that. But because you've got the software centrally on the cloud, it also means that you can push the content people or the regulation team right beside that software. So you can actually, and we have hired a team of compliance people, lawyers. We've partnered with a Magic Circle law firm called Allen & Overy in London, the 5th biggest law firm in the world. So as a community together, and we obviously have dialogue with the regulators, so that our customers subscribe to a single service on an annual basis, like Netflix, but a lot more expensive. So they subscribe to a single service, and they get the rules maintained for them, the updates done for them, the software maintained for them. And as I said, they have very little work to do except to review the results, maybe to make some filings, to make some adjustments. But the entire process is taken care for by us or by the vendor, which for me is certainly for our customers the essence of being rational and making a good decision. Compliance is no secret sauce. There is no value add. There's no reason why you should do it differently to you over here. The strength and numbers effect, if you can say, and this is great, we have 23 customers now, that every single one of our customers uses exactly the same rules. So it's not like you have this interpretation of that rule and you have this interpretation of that rule. Every single one of our customers has vetted our rules, has approved the rules, and we get feedback the whole time, people saying, hey, how about this with total return swaps? Maybe the interest adjustment should be done this way, and we kind of go either to Allen & Overy or to another source. What do you think? And as a community, then we push this update back to our users. The other advantage of that is things like big data. So for example, we have, as I said, 23 customers. We can run analysis across all our customers in one place. So for example, if one of our customers is using a value of 1 million for the market cap for some company, we can say to them on screen, hey, you're probably using the wrong value because 85% of our other customers are using a different value. And that is only possible when you use a cloud system and have your data in one place that everybody can use together. We can also say, hey, 92% of our customers have filed with the German regulator in the last 6 months. You don't seem to have filed with the German regulator. Are you doing things correctly? So running analysis across huge data sets because all this data is central in the cloud. And it also offers us great things like a community. So for example, I always know that compliance officers are a bit lonely. They sit in an office together or on their own and kind of read through memos and PDFs from ESMA or the BVI or the BaFin and trying to work out what it means. Because our software, as I said, is central and everybody has a web interface, they can log in and click on a rule and see, hey, John from Aberdeen Asset Management has commented saying, I believe this rule should be formatted to 2 decimal places. Or look at the US 13F rule, and you can see some American hedge fund who knows 13F very, very well has commented, I've just talked to the SEC, this and this is the new way of doing this. So you can actually share the knowledge back to the community, which certainly when you're working on your own and your own install systems is not possible. So as a whole, sorry I said it without the new slides, a bit lost here, but as a whole we truly believe that putting things centrally in the cloud is the only way for the industry to adapt. We've been talking about saving costs and trying to disrupt, but the only way of doing that is making commodities out of things that bring value. And certainly compliance is the ultimate commodity. You need to do it efficiently, you need to do it correctly, and you need to do it cheaply. And other than that, just get it done. So thank you very much. Apologies for the slight disruption. I'd love any questions.
Thank you very much.